Welcome to Ahamkara Abridged, where I will tell you all about the Ahamkara as a species in Destiny. If you're anything like me, you want to know more about one of the coolest creatures Destiny has to offer, but understandably maybe you don't have the time to go sifting through hours of external lore. As this video is the abridged version of the lore, this is essentially the too long didn't read, so if you want to know absolutely everything, I recommend going to check out My Name Is Byf, and there you will find plenty of much longer, more in-depth videos covering anything you want to know about Destiny. Without further ado, let's talk a little bit about Destiny's wish granting and potentially shape-shifting dragons. So right off the bat, while not looking like a traditional dragon, the Ahamkara are Destiny's stand-in for dragons. These creatures are very powerful and utilize wish magic, though the terms of this magic is something we'll discuss a little bit later. From all we've known until recently, the Ahamkara were hunted to extinction a long time ago by the Guardians. They were deemed as being too powerful and too dangerous to be kept around, which honestly they probably were. In general, the Ahamkara are not trustworthy. They have the power to grant wishes through a strange, perception-bending magic. Though this ends up being a bargain that more often than not is more in the Ahamkara's favor than whoever is being granted the wish. So essentially there's a catch. As of now, we have only ever actually seen two Ahamkara, one of which doesn't really count. Riven of 1,000 Voices, the final boss of the Last Wish raid in the Dreaming City, and this Ahamkara illusion that we fight in the Witch Queen campaign on Savathun's throne world. Now I say this one doesn't really count because this is, as the name suggests, an illusion. It's not a real living creature. However, while similar, it does not look identical to Riven, so this is not just a projection of Riven. This is a different Ahamkara. Riven was the last known Ahamkara found by Aldrin and the Awoken. This sparked a sort of companionship between the Awoken and the Ahamkara in the Dreaming City. Again, this was a long time ago. If you go explore the Dreaming City, you will find plenty of Ahamkara skulls if you look in the right places. However, eventually, of course, these Ahamkara were hunted, and Riven became the last known of its kind. Mara sealed it away in the Dreaming City for protection of Riven and also herself, because again, these creatures can be pretty dangerous. Now, when talking about the Ahamkara, the question often is asked, well, are they taken? Because it's kind of implied in the Last Wish raid that Riven is taken. Here's the story behind that. After Marasov died in the attack on Saturn during the Taken King, we never see this, but Oryx was able to infiltrate the Dreaming City and began to bargain with Riven, though whether he knew he was bargaining is up for debate. Essentially, Oryx wants to take Riven, and she tells him that he can only take her if he wishes for it. The main reason for this being that Riven cannot begin her bargaining until Oryx has wished for something. Oryx ends up wishing to take Riven, which she agrees to. Although because Oryx had to wish for it, Riven was able to alter the terms of this deal, the alterations of which will be shown more when Oryx dies. This is kind of a side note, but Riven retains her appearance upon being taken for some reason. I don't know if she just slipped this into the contract of the deal, but that's why she's not black and white like all the other Taken. Riven views her place in the Dreaming City as a sort of cage, and she remains under Oryx's will until his demise, after of which she was returned to her own will and actually gained a sort of control over the Taken, which was probably a consequence of Oryx's wish. At some point, Riven ends up directly bargaining with Savathun as well, though I'm not as familiar with what actually went down here. All I was able to find was that Riven was intimidated by Savathun, and Savathun may have gained some sort of control over Riven. Riven meets her physical death by the hands of the Guardians in the Last Wish raid as the final boss, which you can still do right now. This is where her story essentially ends for now, but here are some other more tidbits of information about the Ahamkara that didn't really fit anywhere else in this video. If you visit Shaxx in the tower, you'll find that he has what appears to be an Ahamkara skull hanging from the ceiling. This is something that Eris Morn has been very concerned about for a while. The reason for this is because Ahamkara bones can actually communicate post-death. Eris was concerned that this Ahamkara skull would be subconsciously manipulating Shaxx for a period of time. This is also why you'll sometimes see these bones coated in silver, because this quiets the voices. There's a handful of Warlock and Hunter exotics that physically use pieces of these Ahamkara bones, such as the Ahamkara grasps and the skull of Dire Ahamkara. The Ahamkara also have a very distinct way of talking. They will always end their sentence with, "Oh, something mine." So if you're reading a lore tab or the description of a weapon or armor piece and it ends with "oh bearer mine" or "oh something mine," that's an Ahamkara talking, most likely. I didn't know this, but way back in Destiny 1 there was actually a hunter artifact that was literally the scale of an Ahamkara. The name Last Wish of the Last Wish raid refers to the last wish that Riven ever granted. I was unable to find exactly what this wish was. It may have been granted to Savathun to cast a spell on the Dreaming City, letting Taken loose, though this information may be slightly incomplete. To tie things up, Riven is technically a Taken, however the Ahamkara as a whole are definitely not. And finally, as far as we know, the Ahamkara are indeed extinct, which is unfortunate because they're really cool and I hope that's not true. Hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, let me know. I would love to do more of these, but regardless, thanks for hanging out and goodbye.